Okay, so next unit is on trigonometry, which you first learned last year. And we learned how basically trigonometry, we learned how to use it to find missing angles and missing sides in right triangles that we couldn't find using, say, Pythagoras, or we couldn't find using the fact that all three angles in a triangle always add up to. What is the sum of all three angles in any triangle? 180 degrees. Good. Okay. So, I mean, you guys in the past have done questions like this, where you've been given this side, and you've been asked to find the third side. And you use Pythagoras, where legs squared plus legs squared equals hypotenuse squared. Other types of questions, I could tell you that this is 50 degrees, and I could ask you what this is. Well, we know that all three angles add up to 180 degrees, so to find this one, we do 180 minus 90, which this represents, minus 50. But there are some questions involving right triangles where we can't use this, or we can't use this, and that's where trig comes in. So the first thing I want to talk about is just basically a review of what we did last year. Because really, trigonometry is just about setting up and solving equations. They just look a little different. They've got three words, sine, cos, and tan in them. Okay. First off, we call all three sides of a right triangle different names when we use trigonometry. Do you remember the three names? Hypotenuse, adjacent, opposite. Okay? The hypotenuse we can always find. It's always the same in any triangle. It's always opposite the right angle, or it's the longest side. So if you put your pencil on the right angle and draw an arrow out in between, you will hit the hypotenuse. Okay? The adjacent and opposite change depending on what angle we're working with in the question. So if we were working with angle A, if we were asked to find this, or if we were told what this was, from angle A, we would draw an arrow out, and the side we hit is called the opposite. And so by default, the third side that we haven't dealt with yet will be called the adjacent. That's usually how I like to find them. I identify the hypotenuse, I identify the opposite because they seem pretty straightforward, and then the third side must be adjacent. That's essentially what this whole paragraph says. So, given this triangle above, or given this triangle here, what is the side opposite angle A? Angle B, pardon me. What's it called? Notice we use capital letters to talk about angles, and we use lowercase letters to talk about sides. Little b, because it's go from B, draw an arrow, the side that you hit is the opposite. And adjacent by default, because this is the hypotenuse, will be little a. So little b, okay. So you need to be comfortable with how to identify opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse, because if you can't identify those, then it's going to be hard to use the trig ratios because it involves those. So what if I gave you this? I'm just going to give you another one. No, I'm going to draw it a different way. Notice when we label triangles, we use capital letters to label the angles or where the sides meet. And then we use lowercase letters where to represent the sides. And usually the side opposite the letter for the angle is the lowercase of that letter. So what side is opposite angle y? Little y. What angle, or sorry, what side is the hypotenuse? Little x. What side is adjacent to angle z? Little y. Good. Okay. So be comfortable with that. Okay, so how do we use these sides? Well, we have three sort of, formulas technically. Okay. But we call them trig ratios. And we call them the basic ones because next year you're going to learn three new ones. They're actually pretty easy. It's what happens when you flip them all. That's all. You just give them new names. Anyway, the sine of A. So that means the sine of any angle, any acute angle. We don't do the 90-degree angles here. We'll talk about those later. The sine of any angle will be whatever the opposite side angle A is to the hypotenuse. The cosine of angle A will be the side adjacent to angle A over the hypotenuse. And the tangent, which we call tan of angle A, will be the side opposite angle A over the side adjacent angle A. How do we remember all these? Which you could see on the next page. It's math that's used in physics. SOHCAHTOA. Because we'd have to raise your tuition if I printed in color for you guys. Yeah. You'd have to buy more of your own hockey sticks. You'd have to pay more for your own travel. Okay. So similarly, in that previous triangle, we could have found the sine of angle B by doing the side opposite angle B to the hypotenuse. Cosine of angle B would be the side adjacent to angle B over the hypotenuse. And the tangent of angle B, or tan B, would be the side opposite angle B to the side adjacent to angle B. Okay? We call these trig ratios, but basically they're equations, they're formulas. And so what's going to happen with these, okay, is there's three pieces of information in every formula. There's an angle, side, and a side. You will be given two of the three, and you have to use algebra to figure out the third. But before we do that, let's just get a little bit more comfortable with how to find trig ratios, how to find fractions. So here's a triangle, right triangle, ABC, and we are told the lengths of all three sides. And that does work because 4 squared plus 5 squared does in fact equal the square root of 41 squared. You are asked to find the sine of angle A. You're not asked to find A, not yet. We just want to find the sine of angle A, so our answer is going to be a fraction. 5 over the square root of 41, right? Because it's opposite angle A to hypotenuse. If you were actually asked to find the angle, then we have to go further. But here you're just asked to find the ratio or the fraction. What's the cosine of angle A? 4 over square root 41. Because it's adjacent angle A over hypotenuse. The tan of angle B. Sorry? 4 over 5. What about the tan of angle A? 5 over 4. Big difference between the two. So this would be the side opposite angle B over adjacent angle B. And this would be opposite angle A over adjacent angle A. So really with these kind of questions, there's only 3 different types of questions you can get. The angle's unknown, you got to find it. One of the sides is unknown, or the other side is unknown. So it's really just 3 different types of equations. Basically, what we do is we set up an equation and we use our algebra skills to solve. So let's have a look at this. And here's how so the first thing we want to set up is the equation. First, so it's going to look like sine cos tan, whatever one is we're going to use in the question. Whatever the angle is, it could be unknown, equals whatever side over whatever side. And one of those 3 pieces will be unknown. So in this question, this is the angle I'm dealing with, right? This has nothing to do with the question, this acute angle. I don't know what it is. I'm not asked to find it. So if I'm dealing with this side, and I'm asked to find this side, what is this side in relation to this angle called? Opposite. What is this side called? So according to SOHCAHTOA, I use sine. So the sine of the angle, which I'm given, 25 degrees, equals the opposite side, which is over the hypotenuse. So that's a trig equation or an algebraic equation. It's also a fraction equation. And we've been solving fraction equations for the last couple of years. The first thing we want to do is get rid of the fraction. How would I get rid of the fraction here? Times everything by 11. Both sides. Okay? Times 11 and divide 11 will cancel each other out on that side. So I will be left with 11 times the sine of 25 degrees is equal to x. And of course, when we solve equations, we want the variable by itself, which it is. How are we going to find x? We're going to have to do 11 times the sine of 25 degrees. And you're going to need a calculator for this. 4.6, 2 decimal places. Thank you. So x is approximately 4.65 or equals 4.65. Are there units? No. So that's one situation. A side is missing and you find it by multiplication. Second situation would be something like this. Okay, what's the trig equation going to look like? It's going to be tan, because I'm dealing with this angle and opposite over adjacent. Tan, 68 degrees, don't forget the degree symbol. Right, another fraction equation. What's different about this one than the previous one? Right, the unknown is on the bottom on this one. It was on the top on the first one. Okay. Good, yeah. That's why we're doing it now. That's why we're reviewing it. So, just like we did previously, I want to get rid of the fraction first. Multiply both sides by y. And I'm left with y times the tan. Notice I'm saying times. I mean, you can say y tan 68 degrees, but just remember it's multiplication. Equals 8. So after I got rid of the fraction, the variable's still not by itself. Remember, this says y times tan 68. So I divide what? Divide tan 68. And which means you got to do it to the other side. So therefore, to get your answer, you're going to have to divide this time. So 8 divided by the tan of 68 to 2 decimal places, 3.23. So when the unknown side was up top, we multiplied. When the unknown side was on the bottom, we divided. The third situation is when the angle's unknown. Like this. So dealing with this angle, because this is what I'm trying to find, opposite over adjacent means tan. Right. So I don't have to get rid of the fraction. I have to get x by itself. This does not mean. This does not mean tan times x. Okay? So we don't divide tan. You can't do that. It's impossible. It's like, think of these trig functions like square root. If I asked you to take the square root of 25, you don't go square root times 25. It doesn't make any sense. The square root is the function. It's the operation. Right? So I need to just get rid of the tan. And how I get rid of it is I do the inverse of the tan, or tan to the -1. Those cancel each other out. And whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other. So that means to find the missing angle, we're going to have to do second tan on our calculator. 5 divided by 13, rounded to the nearest degree, yes, is 21. Don't forget, whenever you're asked to answer an angle, you need the units, degrees. Okay? Okay. I'm not done yet. I'm going to ask for some volunteers. Using the color green, come up and draw me some ground. Some ground. Go ahead. Yeah, just ground. Just draw the ground. You need green. Yes, but I just the ground, just like that. Okay. Thank you. Using the color black, I need somebody to come up and draw me a building on the right-hand side. The building. Yeah. On the right. A little higher. That's good. Right to the ground. Right to the ground. Yeah, that'll be the lobby. Okay, good. In blue, somebody come up and draw me a stick person on the left. On the left. It's a very tall person in relation to that building. That's okay. Okay. The height of the building is 150 meters. Somebody come up and label that. No, somebody else. Yep. Come on, you guys. 150 meters. 100. Thank you. Juliana, you can do the next one. Okay. All right, Juliana, this is you. You're going to draw a dashed line from the person's feet to the top of the building. I'm not done yet. And the angle between the ground and that line you just drew is 48 degrees. Thank you. And now, and I want a volunteer to come up and give me the solution when it's ready. Find me how far, what's the horizontal distance from the person to the building? How would you find that? Go to it. You can pick any color. Look at all those. Do it up on the right, upper right. Okay, or upper left. Sorry, I should have said upper left.
So this is the opposite.
Okay.
We have the opposite, and we have tan.
Okay.
Is it tan?
It is tan, but you're gonna give enough space.
Okay, let's just get some later questions.
Hey. Over, what do you want to call it? You call it whatever you like. Okay.
You want a little B?
That's just fine.
Okay, and then you're just gonna. Yeah, and then you're just gonna divide this by.
No.
No, you're gonna times it by x.
Okay.
And that's gonna be.
Why don't you go to the left side? You got more space there. Good. Nice. No, we want to get x by itself.
Right.
You can't. There's no way you're going to erase it like that. Okay.
And then.
Somebody help her because she doesn't have a calculator.
So I got this. Mental math.
Mental math.
135.
Nice. Well done, all of you. Okay?
I do another one, I like to run on the board.
Okay. So for Monday, exercise 4.1. I'm going to do sine law tomorrow. I know you guys are going to miss it. Okay? And then I'm going to assign part of 4.2 for Monday as well. So I would suggest, what's that? Sorry, for next Wednesday. So I would suggest you get on top of exercise 4.1 right now because you got 25 minutes, and which means you can probably finish it in this class. Because the next step is, what happens if it's not a right triangle? Well, we can still use trig. It's just different formulas of trig. Okay.